Hey everyone, this is Sarah from Black Note Transcriptions and welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to talk about the top vocal notation mistakes that I see in so many charts. If you're not a vocalist, writing for vocalists can be very tricky. Now it's really important to understand vocalists and understand what they can do before you write for them. There's so much to learn about vocal orchestration. We're not going to get into all of that right now, but there are a lot of notation mistakes that have to do with not fully understanding vocalists. So let's get into them. One thing that's really important to understand is that when vocalists are sight reading, they are multitasking like crazy. They have to find the right pitches, which requires some level of relative pitch. And while they are singing the right pitches to the right rhythms, they have to also read the lyrics. And if the lyrics are in a foreign language, they have to be making sure they're pronouncing everything correctly. If vocalists are sight reading in a group, they're also thinking about matching their consonants, matching their vowel shapes, and so much more. So when vocalists are reading, it's important to understand that they have a lot going on. There are two main categories of errors that we see in vocal music notation, and those are musical errors and lyrical errors. Let's start with the musical errors. Our first musical error that we see all the time is music being written in the wrong octave. This is so common, especially in lead sheets. If you're not sure in which octave a vocalist is singing, try to match the pitches on the piano. That will tell you where to write the music. Most of the time, vocalists do not use transposing clefs, so what you see on the piano and what you write on the page is what you will get from the vocalist. Now, there are a few instances where transposing clefs are used in order to make reading easier for vocalists. The treble octave down clef is used very, very frequently for music written for tenor vocalists. You will see this especially in choral music. Another common time to use this octave down clef is in a lead sheet. So if you want to write a melody in the treble clef, but it is being sung an octave lower, you can use the treble octave down clef and it will make sense. Another common mistake we see in vocal notation is using the wrong clef. So besides the transposing clef we just talked about, it's very, very common to see vocal music written, let's say it should really be in treble clef, but somebody writes it in bass clef with tons of ledger lines. Avoid using many, many ledger lines whenever possible. If there's a piece of music that really fits in the treble clef, write it in the treble clef. Use whatever clef makes the most sense. Now, if you're using music notation software, you may find that there are lots of obscure, kind of unknown clefs that are easy to put into your music. Please avoid using really obscure clefs unless your musicians are prepared for it and you're doing some kind of historical performance. Avoid the really crazy clefs because your vocalists will see that music and they will be confused unless you've prepared them for it or unless you're using it for a specific purpose. Another common mistake I see all the time is providing music for vocalists that is in a key or a range that just doesn't work for them. Don't assume that every vocalist can sing any piece of music in any key. A piece of music that you might have for a vocalist could have a really wide range, and you need to be really sensitive to the vocalist's range to make sure that they can comfortably sing that piece. Make sure that you are providing music that is in a comfortable range for your vocalists and a range that will show off their best strengths. When your vocalist or vocalists are singing for you, you want them to be comfortable and you want them to be proud of what they are singing. They will appreciate the time that you put into asking them about their range and maybe transposing or rearranging a piece to work for their voice. They will respect that very much and they will feel very appreciated. Another common mistake that I see, and this one's kind of a pet peeve of mine, is not providing the melody for the vocalist. I can't tell you how many times I've been a part of a band where somebody will give me as the vocalist the chart and there's no melody. It's just a chord chart. And I don't know the piece at all. I'm sight reading. And I'll say, great, what's the melody? And they'll say, oh, you can listen to it later, or oh, you'll figure it out. Oh, I'll sing it to you later and then we can work it out. And as the vocalist, that's such a huge waste of my time. So make sure that if you are having a rehearsal and there's a vocalist there and they need to have music, give them that music. Don't tell them to just look it up on Spotify and learn it later. That's really rude, and it's kind of insulting to vocalists because a lot of people don't provide melodies because they assume vocalists won't be able to read the melodies. So, respect your vocalist or vocalists, give them the music, and if they aren't great sight readers, that's okay. They'll appreciate the fact that you're respecting them enough to give them the music, and they will appreciate the chance to work on their reading and to try to do it. Many, many, many vocalists are absolutely incredible sight readers, so please, please give them the music. Another common mistake, this is kind of the opposite of the previous one, is only providing the melody. There have also been many times where I've been in a band and I will just get a melody. I won't have any chord changes or any of the other markings that the other band members have. While I do have the melody and I am able to sing my part, I would also like to know what's going on harmonically, and I would like to know what the form is, and I'd like to know what the piano's doing here and what the bass is doing here. So provide your vocalist with the same information that you give the rest of your band. So if your vocalist doesn't have a chord chart, they might feel kind of left out, and sometimes it can make them feel kind of dumb for not really picking up on where they are in the piece. Make sure you give your vocalist as much information as possible and they will feel respected and appreciated. Another common mistake that we see is excessively complex writing. While there are a lot of things to take into consideration while writing for vocalists, you need to make sure that you are writing things that are possible to sing. If you are writing just absolutely insane runs and 3-octave leaps and just things that vocalists can't physically do, then they will be very frustrated when they get that music. Now, I'm not saying that you can't write anything challenging for vocalists. Vocalists love a good challenge. They love reading some chromatic, crazy stuff. But just make sure your music is physically possible for the human voice to sing. The last notation mistake that I see all the time is not considering the breath needs of your vocalist. So if you're writing a piece for singers, make sure that you are giving them time to breathe. If you are expecting a solo singer to sing one note for 90 seconds without a breath, that's a little bit absurd and it's not going to happen for you. So make sure that when you are writing, you're giving them a chance to breathe. And if you are writing for a larger group, if you're writing for a choir or something like that, write it in a way to where the vocalist can stagger breathe without really disrupting the sound. Now we have a few lyrical errors to cover. The first area in which we see a lot of mistakes is slurs and slurring. We have one quick rule. If there is a syllable and it is being sung over multiple notes, make sure that you are slurring from the first note where that syllable is sounded to the very last note where that syllable is sounded. Here's an example of a good slur and a bad slur. The good slur lasts all the way until the last note, and the bad slur doesn't slur at all. The second area in which we see many, many mistakes is in hyphenating words. So, if you are using a word with more than one syllable, which you probably will when you're writing lyrics, make sure to hyphen between each syllable. This is so important because when vocalists are reading lyrics, they just are reading syllable at a time. So when they see a hyphen, they know, okay, this word is not over, and they can then pronounce the word a little bit differently. Make sure that you have hyphens separating every syllable in each word. Here's an example of a phrase that is hyphenated correctly and one that has no hyphens at all. Speaking of hyphens, another area where we see so many mistakes is in splitting the syllables incorrectly. So when you have a word with more than one syllable, you might be able to come up with many, many ways to split up those syllables. But make sure that you are doing it in a way that makes the most sense. So a lot of the time you can just follow your common sense and follow what visually looks correct. But if you're not sure where to properly hyphenate your words, try the Lyric Hyphenator online. It's this free tool. It only works for the English language, unfortunately, but it's a great tool and it will show you where to properly split your words. Here's an example of a phrase where the syllables are split very poorly. it's kind of hard to read and it's kind of awkward. And here's an example of that phrase, split correctly. Lastly, we see this all the time in our lyrics, and that is a lack of punctuation. Make sure that you are adding punctuation in your lyrics. If there's a natural comma in the lyric, add that comma. If there's a period or a full stop at the end of a sentence, add that in. If there's a question mark, be sure to put that in the lyrics. Without punctuation, your vocalist won't be able to as easily figure out where to take a little pause or how to inflect certain phrases. Punctuation is something that we use all the time, and we do it kind of subconsciously. So be sure to add in punctuation so your vocalists can read the lyrics with ease and without any question. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. We love hearing from you. And please subscribe to our channel if you have not already, and be sure to click the little bell if you want to hear notifications every time we post a video. If you want to check out more of our content or learn about our premium services, you can visit us at blacknotetranscriptions.com.